And welcome back to the K40 Stepper Driver board part 2, testing and making things move. Before we continue, I'd just like to say thanks to the channel sponsor PCBWay. These are the folks I go to for my PCB needs, and they provided the PCB for this project. The page for the PCBs is very easy to follow. You go to the instant quote, you just work your way down. How many designs you got, what size it is, how many layers, what you want it made of, aluminium or FR4, and then you can select the colours. I went for red this time, and all the options. Now if you just want a standard, hey, I want a prototype board, you know, most of it is already selected. You don't need to actually do a lot. Just tell it how big your board is, pop in the Gerbers, and away you go. They will check your Gerbers and come back and tell you if they found any problems. But just look at the other things they can do. You know, PCB assembly, different types of PCB boards, different surfaces, drillings, mechanics and that. There's just so much they do. And then and don't get me started talking about the CNC machining, 3D printing, metal fabrication, injection molding. I haven't used any of these yet, but I'm sure in time there may be a project to do with maybe some sheet fabrication or some CNC machining. So you just have to watch this space. Now, after that shout out to PCBWay, let's get back to the video. Right, I've got the scope in the left-hand channel, left-hand window, and the data terminal on the top right, and we'll turn the power on. You'll hear it go beep bleep, and you'll see it says Gerbil 1.2H. That's the version of Gerbil on the board, and it's warning us that all commands, all movements are locked because it's in an unknown state. It doesn't know where home is. So the answer to that is to send it $X. So we'll send that, which will unlock it and kill any alarms. So that's okay. So we'll clear the screen. Then I want the relative movements, so backwards and forwards will work quite happily, so we'll send the command for that, G91. That's okay. So I'll clear the screen again. And right, we've got scope on. If you look at the stepper driver, step, channel 1 on step, channel 2 on direction, and then we'll look at the enable later. So we'll get it X to move in the positive direction. I'll send the command to move X 10 spaces, and there's the pulses, and then they disappear. The program is doing a ramp up and a ramp down, so the pulses will appear to speed and then get closer together and then move away and die. So we'll go in the opposite direction, which should bring the direction line up, which it did. And if I go back to the forwards direction, the line's gone down. And then if we move channel 1 to the enable, channel 2 to the step. If we move forward, we should see the enable go down, and then the pulses, and then the pulse should stop and it should go up. Ignore the timings between what's happening because it's a USB scope, well, it's a USB connected to the scope, and it's not doing very well. As you can see, on the top right, the move command is an M4 G1. So we want to go move 4. We're going to move. It's X in 10 directions at a speed of 1,000. So that's the command we're sending. And if we send the -1, of course, it's a -10. So that shows that channel 1 or the X is working okay. So I'll move these over, put them on the Y channel. So now we're on the Y channel. We'll move Y. Let's just clear the screen so you can see what's happening up there. We'll move the Y channel. There go the pulses, and it goes away, and then we'll go backwards 10. Up it goes. That didn't show any pulses. There's something wrong with the scope connection. It's not always showing what the scope does. Notice the direction stays up even though it's because it's ready for the next move. So that's showing that the Y one is okay. So again, we can move to the enable, check what the enable is doing. So we'll try the Y in the 10 direction again. and the scope doesn't respond. So there, the scope responded that time. Like funny going on. Maybe it's the trigger, because I'm changing the direction of trigger and I haven't changed it on the scope. So that's working okay. So the last one to do is to move on to the Z. This is the Z direction, so we'll Z output or control pins. So we'll move Z to Z positive 10. Oops, let's clear the screen so you can see that. There go the pulses, and then we'll move it backwards 10. Scope triggered, but the screen didn't change. It did that time. So there's something definitely wrong with this scope connection. But there it goes again, forwards again. All my pins are in the right places. We'll just check. Let's just check for the enable. Stick that over there. See if it works this way around. Yeah, so you'll see that the enable goes low, the pulses happen, pulses stop, enable goes high. So that's all connected up as it should be. Jobs are good at the moment. Next thing to do is connect a stepper motor to it and see how it goes. Right, as you can see here, I've added the 2 stepper motor drivers. Got the USB to the computer, 24 volts coming in via these 2 cables. And these, if you follow them out, are connected to the K40 gantry. Wires going off to the, you can't really see it there, but there's the X stepper motors there, but the Y stepper motors down there. And if I put power on, you see we've got the unlock message again. So we'll send the kill alarms, so that's okay. And now I'll do the relative movements so that it goes backwards and forwards. That was okay. Yeah, that. So now if I do a move X10, it's a bit noisy. So I've got a lot of things to play with, and we go backwards. Clear the screen, and then we can do the Y10, which is a lot quieter. And I'm not sure, I've got to change some messages around. I don't want to do a homing thing at the moment, because if I do a status query, you can see that this PN thinks that the arms are both parked, and if I home them, if I home the X, clear the screen, do a status query, you see that the X is now thinks it's unhomed, and if I home the Y, do the same again, now the Y is not homed. And so I've got to go into the firmware and invert the homing detection, and once I've done that, I shall be able to home, which is disabled at the moment, so it won't smash it. I've also got to make sure that the homing direction is negative, as I'm not sure yet. My homing position's up here and I'm going positive away from the home, and I've got to look up to work out whether that should be negative or positive, or whichever way, you know, how my driving program will interpret it. If I say it's X is 0 up there, will it go positive away from it? So that's another question to answer. But we're slowly getting there. The next, once it's all working as I want it, it will go back into the K40, get bolted down. The controller will get mounted in a position where I can get to the pots. The homing signals won't be connected to the pins underneath, because I haven't got the socket for that yet, and I don't like the. I just cut a USB cable up to get some thin wire, and I've got to sort out the cables that run from here, because at the moment they're just loose laying on the desk. So I've got to sort out a mechanism for that. So we're getting there. I just thought I'd kind of intermingle into the video just a little bit of progress and see how it goes. Just a recap here. This is the board, USB connector coming in here. I've just zoomed in for the moment to show you. And problem so far is that footprint doesn't match. That footprint matches, but I couldn't get the component to fit. This doesn't have anything on it to show you the plus or minus for the power. Would be nice. I haven't got a connector for here yet, so I've got cables coming in soldered to the back of the connector here. I have a tracking issue with there is no 5 volts power to the 2 steppers. So I've got a bodge wire running back to the 5 volts. 5 volts is generated via a buck converter here. So 24 comes in to power the drivers. The buck converter converts the 24 volts down to 7 volts, which it feeds down onto the Arduino Mega below, onto the V-in pins, which it then regulates down to 5 volts. 5 volts comes back up here and gets used for some ports on here, and now to power the steppers. So that's how far we've got with the board. And so if I zoom out, you can see that that's the last mirror pointing downwards. There's a mirror over here that the laser comes in from this direction, hits that mirror, bounces that way, hits that mirror and bounces down. And if I bring up this is a terminal program called Yet Another Terminal, YET, or YAT, Yet Another Terminal. And the good thing about it is you can configure buttons over here, so that you can configure the button, name the button, so you can press the button and it tells you what's happening. So if I do a quick power off, clear the console, power back on, you can see the message that you're locked out because it doesn't know where it is. So if you try and move, you get an error, and the error is, why should I move? I don't know where I am. So you have to kill the alarm. That gives you a caution then that you're unlocked, so you can move, but again it doesn't know where it is. And that does allow you then, problem now of course is that it's in absolute mode. So I move to +10, I can move +10 back, but I can't move +10 again because I'm already at that position, I'm already at X minus 10. So we could go into relative mode. So now all the moves are relative to where you are. So if I want to go forward +10, hit +10. If I want to go forward again, I can hit +10 again, and the same with going backwards, and the same with the Y movements. As you can see, it's all nicely moving at the moment. I had problems with the homing, the signals for the homing. This is just got a bent bit of metal which comes back, and there's a opto detector here that bit of metal slides into down here, and it's inverted currently. So what I've done is, on this little board here, I just cut the 4 wires, and you can't really see it on there, but basically on there are 2 FETs, and they just effectively invert the signals. At some point I'm going to make new boards for up here so that I can change the optocoupler. Instead of being connected to ground and you pull it up and it pulls up to 5 volts, I'll connect it to 5 volts and then put the resistor between the output and ground, and that will invert the signal for me, and then I can get rid of that board and plug straight in. The other option is I can put maybe some little headers and put the inverter on the board, and you just change the header as to what way round the signal is. But as you can see, I shall probably end the video for this stage here, as I've got to start tidying up the wiring and putting it back into the laser frame, and so that I can fire the laser through, because I want to be able to measure how far it moves and things like that. But it is moving along steadily, so we're getting to be able to send commands to it, and I'm getting reasonably accurate, reasonably good at understanding G-code now. So if I move the camera to point to the back, that's where the homing is going to be, so it's all going to be negative direction, so it'll be minus this and minus that, and when I get Lightburn on, that's going to be the next problem. So let's just set it home and see how it goes. It's a bit slow at homing, but then so am I. Probably catch you on the next one. Oh, it's not homing. Why is it not homing? And it's reset. Oh, well, that was fun, wasn't it? Maybe another day. I tried the homing before making the video. Just to demonstrate the homing, we will move the head over. Got to sort out some of that grumbling of the thing. But we'll give it a reasonable distance away. Then we'll hit the home button. And I have changed one of the settings to speed it up a little bit. So let's home and see what happens now. And the settings are set so that it's locked, and when the motors are, when it's not moving, the motors are still energized. I don't know if I'm going to keep that feature on or not, or whether I need it, and see if I can find a command that says unlock motors. But I think that's a reasonably long video now, and so
Well, if you like what you see, click on the subscribe button, click on the like, click on the bell for notifications, and as they say, I'll catch you on the next one.